guys, welcome to My Sew Bliss. Today I'm excited to share with you a tutorial on how to make these hair scrunchies. They're super cute, super quick and easy, and the perfect project for any sewist, especially beginners, because they're just so simple. It's so much fun. So the supplies that you're going to need are, first you're going to need the pattern. You can hit the link down below where I have a pattern all ready for you. You just have to sign up, put your email in, and I will send you that pattern. And then you're just going to need a little bit of fabric. I cut this out of a fat quarter. This is Rifle Paper Company. I am obsessed with all the fabric they come out with. Super pretty. So cut those pieces out and then these pieces out. You do not have to have the hair bow on it. You could just leave the scrunchie. They are actually two separate pieces, and you'll see that later on in the tutorial how you could just leave it off. So you're also going to need a little bit of a 1/4 inch wide elastic. I'm using 8.5 inches per hair scrunchie, so depending on how many you're going to make is how much you're going to need, but for just one, only 8.5 inches. And then you're just going to need all of your basic sewing supplies. So let's get started. Now the first thing that we're going to do is take our long rectangle and fold it right sides together so that the raw edges are matching up, and I'm just going to iron that down so that it lays nice and flat, because next we're going to take it over to our sewing machine. So I'm just lining up those edges. This is just going to make it so much easier to sew. So once I have that lined up, you could put pins in it right along here, but I don't really need to. So I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and stitch from the top right here all the way down to the bottom. Make sure you back stitch at the top and the bottom. I'm going to be stitching mine at 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to begin sewing, take a couple stitches, and then back stitch a couple stitches and continue on. Now, while I'm over here at my sewing machine, I'm going to take the bow pieces and I'm going to put them right sides together and just matching all the raw edges up. And then I'm going to start sewing those pieces together. But you want to make sure that you leave an opening so that we can turn it right sides out. So I'll probably start right here, make sure you back stitch, and then I'll go all the way around it and stop a couple inches before hitting where I started and making sure to back stitch again so I'll have a little opening. Now with our bow piece, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim the points up here so that when we turn it right sides out, it'll lay nicer. And I'm going to trim the seam allowance just so it fits in there a little bit better. So I just trimmed it down to where it curves. I'm going to do that on the other side. And just kind of trim to that point so that it is going to come out nicer. And then I'll do the other side. Clip that point off and trim the seam allowance. And then now I'm ready to turn it right sides out. I like to have a point turner handy, especially one that has a curved edge like this, so that I'm not poking through my fabric, because it can get a little tricky. So I just start trying to push that fabric through, and this one's a little thicker, so it might take a little bit more time. Once you have that turned right sides out, I like to take it over to my ironing board and give it a good pressing, and then iron the opening that we just turned it right sides out with. Iron those raw edges in so that they're on top of each other and will look like they're closed like that. And then we'll finish it off in a minute. So I'm going to take that over, and I'm also going to take this long strip over and iron it as well. Now for our long strip, I'm going to take it and I like to open it up and open that seam allowance and iron that open so it just isn't looking funny and bothering me later on. Especially with this thicker fabric, I think it'll just help make it look really nice. And now I can turn this tube right sides out and iron that open. So to turn this right sides out, I like to just use a plastic straw that I have and just kind of start curling on top of it. Like I said before, after I have turned it right sides out, I like to iron it down again. I also like to keep that seam in the middle, and that'll just make it look really nice once we finish it off. With my pieces ironed, I'm going to then take my elastic. I've put a safety pin on one end, and I'm going to start threading it through this tube. As you are threading it, you want to make sure that you are still holding on to this end, because obviously this is a lot shorter than our tube, and we want it to start scrunching up and actually make the scrunchie. So I put it in a little bit usually, and then sometimes I just bite the end of the elastic with my mouth and that holds it in place, or I just hold this and then scrunch it along as I go. So whatever works for you. You could even safety pin this down here at the bottom. I just like to do it as quick as possible. Once you've got your elastic put through, you can take your safety pin off, and I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to overlap these by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to do a zigzag stitch right over the top so that it'll hold our elastic. Here I have my elastic in my machine. None of my fabric is getting sewn right now. It is just the 2 elastic ends getting sewn together, and I have it on a zigzag stitch. It's a small one, so it'll just fit within the elastic. And I'm just gonna go back and forth a few times just so it's really held on there and will stay forever. Now while I'm over here at the sewing machine, another thing that I like to do is finish off these raw ends, and I do that. I just tuck one of the ends in about 1/4 inch. I don't even iron it, I just roll it just like this. I haven't had any issues or difficulty doing this, so I've just found it's the quickest, easiest way to do it. So just roll those ends, and then I stick this other end in there, and that will cover up all the raw edges. So once I have it, there we go, laying flat, it should look just like this. My fabric doesn't match up as well, but once it's tucked in there, oh, this part's curling out a little bit. Then I'm just going to sew a straight line across to hold those ends together. So I'll just put this whole thing under, right at that seam that I folded. I'm just gonna start stitching. I actually need to use a regular stitch. You could do a zigzag stitch. I'm just using a regular straight stitch, sewing a couple times, back stitching, and then I'll stitch all the way down. And back stitch again. And then it should be finished. Now, if you don't like the look of this and you want no stitching showing, you could also do a slip stitch. I will put a link in the iCard right up here for the video I did on how to do a slip stitch, and you could just do it right along this folded edge on either side, and it'll look really nice. So obviously it doesn't work every time. That kind of came out a little bit. It'll stay fine, but if you are not doing a bow, you could actually just finish that off there. I like to fluff it up a little bit, even out the gathers, even out the scrunch, I guess you would call it, and that is a finished scrunchie. Now, if you are doing a bow, next I'm going to bring it over to my sewing machine and show you what to do. So the last thing we need to do is finish off this opening that we have here, and just like for the scrunchie, you could do a slip stitch. I'll link again the iCard right up here. I will link to that video on how to do a slip stitch. Honestly, when I'm doing the scrunchies, I just like them quick and easy, fast. So I'm just going to sew a straight stitch. I'm gonna go and back stitch and close it and back stitch again. To finish off the scrunchie, I'm gonna find the place I stitched. I just like doing it right along there, especially since my stitching is visible. And I take my tie, put it through the hole and match up the stitching, and then I just scrunch it together and tie a knot with my bow piece and just kind of make it even, make sure each piece of the bow is coming out evenly, and kind of play with it for a minute, and then it is complete. And now you are all done with your hair scrunchie. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And make sure you tag me and share with me your hair scrunchies that you make. Also check out my Instagram where I'll be showing lots of pictures of how you can wear your hair scrunchies and how I'll be styling it with short hair, and then I'm gonna get my sister and her friend to help me style them with long hair. So I'm just super excited about these, super fun and trendy. Obviously you can make a lot really quickly and just a great beginner project. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.